This video is a follow-on from the previous 8 videos dealing with price in the precious metals markets. If you haven't seen those videos, I'd recommend you doing so before watching this one. So let's pick up where we left off and continue on looking at valuations, but this time as it relates to value and price. Let's start out with a short imagined scenario. When anyone wants to buy a product, say a lawnmower, they go into the store and look at the various products on offer as well as looking at their prices. Let's say a man has, after some consideration, selected a lawnmower that he wants to buy. The lawnmower costs $150. That is what it's deemed to be worth by the vendor. So he goes to the checkout till with the lawnmower and he pays for it using cash or a card. Please note that the product is priced in dollars. Dollars are then used as the measure of its value. As I said in the previous video, in this instance we're using dollars as a measure of its worth, but it could be euros or pounds or yen or whatever currency you care to consider. Please note that also that the price has been agreed between the vendor and the buyer without any discussion having taken place on the matter. There was a tacit agreement on the price. Ordinarily, customers buying products in stores don't consider haggling about the price. They just pay the price as it's displayed. This is all fairly straightforward stuff, but talking about such things in this way belies the difficulty. The following scenarios should, I hope, show some of the difficulties involved. Let's now imagine another scenario. Imagine a person wants to buy a car. He goes to a second-hand car dealership. He becomes interested in buying a car on the lot. The price tag is $5,000. The customer and owner might haggle over the price. They settle on a figure of $4,000. The value of the car is therefore priced at $4,000. The price was agreed on in negotiations. That is what both parties consider the car as being worth in dollar terms. We could say then that the price in the lawnmower scenario was fixed. Contrast that to the car scenario. The price in that instance was not so fixed. The buyer managed to pay less than the price as had been originally advertised. In the car scenario, there was a difference between what the vendor wanted for the car and what the buyer wanted to pay. Both parties had different ideas as to its value. We must bear in mind that in real terms, price is only determined by what someone is actually prepared to pay for something. Imagine a person enters an antique shop and they are browsing. They become interested in buying a chair. The chair doesn't have a price tag, so the customer asks, "How much is the chair?" The owner might say something like, "It's $100. If the customer doesn't care what the owner thinks, they might respond by saying, "Oh no, it's not worth that." So, in this scenario, the value of the chair is $100. This then is the price, at least according to the owner. According to the customer, however, is worth less than $100. The customer could then at some point start to haggle in order to get the price down. After a bit of back and forth between them, they might agree on a price that satisfies them both, and they do the deal. The owner sells the chair to the customer for $75. Moving on. We've all no doubt heard of paintings being sold in auctions for millions of dollars. It's abhorrent to me to think that someone has the wealth to spend such sums on art while others are literally living in hovels or starving. Inequality such as this is patently wrong, but I'm not going to get into talking about such things as that would take us on a big diversion. So back to the matter at hand. Suffice to say, much as I appreciate art, such valuations are to my mind utterly absurd. I for one would be content with owning a copy. Anyway, if the painting turned out to be fake, then it's obviously going to be worth substantially less. The business of ascertaining whether it's real or a forgery then becomes hugely important for the purchaser, and also has a massive impact on the determination of the price. An important thing to consider here has to do with value and price. There is no doubt that paintings have a value and in artistic terms, but such events demonstrate the incredible distortions that can occur and the bizarre relationship between value and price. I should say that fine art has become an asset class for people who can afford it, namely the super rich. Fine art is a place where they can store their wealth. The other important point has to do with the auctioning process. The price at auctions is anything but fixed. Purchasers compete to buy the items for sale. The competition between purchasers bids up the price. Each individual purchaser will have valued the item in their own mind, and they'll have a corresponding idea in mind of the price of an item in currency terms, and might not be prepared to go above that price. They will have a cut-off point after which they will step out of the bidding process. They will probably have a budget also. I'm talking about ordinary auctions, not the fine art auctions at Sotheby's or some such establishment. Fine art paintings mentioned above occupy the extreme end of the spectrum with regard to valuations. We should also consider some ancient artifacts that are so rare and so precious that they are regarded as priceless. For whatever reason, a monetary value cannot be ascribed to them. This then is another type of extreme case regarding worth. I hope that in this video I've been able to set the scene regarding issues to do with value and price. Value is quite a complex and curious concept. Valuing something, valuing anything, when you really start to consider it, is not a straightforward matter. Indeed, the more you look into it, the more complex and curious it can become. Value is a rather abstract thing. I would say it is amorphous as air. Just like air, you can't really grasp hold of it, not very easily at any rate. I split this topic into a number of videos, so there's another however many to follow. In the next video, I'll continue to focus on valuations, particularly the difference between value and price. Wise up and rise up.